Welcome, everyone, to our Dittofi No-Code Nights with the co-founders of Dittofi, Samuel and James Virgo. We're going to get started today. We're moving into a new section of building our two-sided marketplace. We're going to move into the front end part of building our two-sided marketplace, which is exciting. If you are needing help building your two-sided marketplace or any other app in Dittofi, please remember that Prono Coders is here to help support you in that build. You can come for a complimentary session of office hours, which we hold Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And just go to pronocoders.com and follow the link to office hours. We'd love to see you. Samuel, I'm going to turn it over to you. Looking forward to seeing this process of building the front end.
Awesome. James, we're going to kick off, right?
Yeah, sure. Just for a sort of quick background to how we're going to approach this front end app build. So I think over the last couple of weeks, if you could pop onto the next slide. Over the last couple of weeks, we've gone through how to build out a two-sided marketplace app that's sort of similar to Airbnb in that it does property rentals. So as part of that, what we've had to do is we've needed to design our two-sided marketplace transaction flow, which as we've learned is everything from the point where the buyer on the marketplace will first of all inquire into whether or not they can or meet with a renter to see whether or not they can actually rent the apartment, all the way through to the review process. So we learned that the transaction flow covers that entire process. And we've also gone about actually implementing that transaction flow from the back end standpoint by developing both the database structure for the marketplace app and also the individual back end actions that are required to run that functionality. So the plan is to make all of this available within the Dittofi platform as a template at the end of this section. And we're releasing it as what's called a headless template, so that you'll be able to build different front ends on top of the two-sided marketplace backend that we're building out. So what we're looking to do today then is we're going to take that backend functionality that we've already created, the database structure and all of the backend actions, and we're going to drop on top of that a front end so that you can see how that is put together. So the question is then, I guess, what is, and this is just a sort of a very brief recap of what a front end actually is, and I guess what the technology is behind it. So Samuel, if you could pop onto the next slide. So we have, when building out the front end of our web application and the front end of our two-sided marketplace app, we're going to be using three technologies. So these are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML is what's going to give our app structure. So very much like if you were, say, building a house, HTML is the walls, the general structure of the house itself. So yeah, I guess the walls, the different rooms in the house and so on. The CSS is what gives your website style. So that's going to be, I guess, using the building analogy, that could be analogous to putting wallpaper up, decorations in the house and so on. And then JavaScript is what makes your app functional, so actually makes it do something. So this could be, for example, if we take the house analogy again, that could be wiring up the different electrics within the house so that when you press a button, a light switch then comes on. So these are the three main languages that we're going to be using, or the three languages that we're going to be using. And what Dittofi allows you to do is it allows you to manipulate HTML, CSS, and JavaScript all within a completely visual way. So there's another important component to this as well, and something that we see often overlooked by both developers or both coders and no coders when developing out an application, and that is the use also of a CSS framework. So Samuel, if you could pop onto the next slide. So a CSS framework here is just a collection of, or a library, let's say, of pre-built components that you can use within your app development. So for example, you might have a complete collection of buttons. You might have a complete collection of alerts. or like a general way of styling certain things within your application. And you can actually take these CSS frameworks and you can use them in order to bring in whole suites of pre-styled components that you can then use within your application. These will then have the necessary like responsiveness automatically built into them so that you don't need to go and do that yourself. So we've seen we've worked with a lot of development companies over the last few years, and we've really noticed that the applications that perform best are those that utilize an existing CSS framework in their delivery. So within Dittofi, all of this is possible. We can use the Visual Builder to manipulate the HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript, and also build out, use CSS, import CSS frameworks, so that we can use a whole bunch of libraries directly off the shelf. So what then would be normally the process for building out the front end? So I had a look through some of the agencies that we work with and what their processes are for building out front end applications from a high level standpoint. And what we've kind of seen is that the traditional way of building out an application, which is, Sam, if you could tick to the next slide. The traditional steps for building out a front end of an application would be, step one would be to create low fidelity wireframes, which are kind of like the blueprints for your different pages within your application. And these are kind of like the in the diagram, this could be like just literally something that's drawn very basically, maybe on a piece of paper or inside, like let's say like a PowerPoint or Figma design, but it doesn't have any of the sort of styling attached to it. After you've kind of like worked out the general flow of your application using these very high level designs, we then move over to high fidelity wireframes. So these are then the ones that have proper styling attached to them, and actually start to look like an application. And then people will take those wireframes and they'll convert them into, they use a front-end developer to convert these into code. So these are the traditional 3 steps. And what we've seen a lot of the time is that where things tend to break down between design and development tend to take place between steps 2 and step 3. So normally what will happen is the designer of the application won't necessarily have the development background to know that they need to design in such a way that it can actually be implemented by the developer on the front end of the system. So quite often I see designs that will actually be very difficult or even impossible to implement from an actual web developer. Similarly, the developers, unless you have experience building a good level of experience building to the front end, quite often you might say bypass using something like a CSS framework, and that can then create problems as you sort of like try to maintain the code in the long run for your application. So we had to think about ways in which these problems could sort of be overcome, particularly around sort of MVP development. So rather than going through these each of these 3 steps, what we sort of recommend to our clients at the moment is that, yes, it's great to start out with the low fidelity wireframes, but quite often we'll suggest that there are a bunch of ways that you can then just use existing sort of templates that are available on the internet that already have been professionally developed using tools like using different CSS frameworks and have the correct sort of like HTML elements in place. So you can almost skip over the high fidelity wireframe steps and go directly into just bringing a template to life within the Dittofi builder, which I think, if Simon, if you check over to the next slide, I think there's a screenshot there that shows that. So what we do here, quite often when we run different boot camps, and also when we work with different clients on a one-on-one basis, we'll help them select a template off a site. Let's say like Theme Forest is one that we use a lot. And we'll help them pick a template that already has all of the necessary components built into it. We then show the client how to import the application, this set of like front-end code directly into the Dittofi builder. And that then gives you a whole set of pages that are really nicely and professionally developed and styled within Dittofi, and then you can just hook that front-end template up to the back end of the application. So this would be, let's say, relying on the headless two-sided marketplace that we're in the process of building at the moment. So this would tend to be the process that we would go through there. So Simon, if you could flip over to the next slide. So I'm going to pass over to Samuel now, and he's going to show you how to go through that process of, first of all, finding a template, picking one off the internet that has the relevant components in it. And if you want to, you can then log in to Dittofi and follow along with this process, because what Samuel's going to do is he's then going to take that template, import it into Dittofi, and show you how you can set it up so that you then have a working two-sided marketplace front end. I think the goal is to get that done by the end of the session, if that's not too ambitious. But yeah, I'm going to flip over to Samuel now, and then he'll take it from there.
Awesome, thank you. So the template I'm going to use is going to come from Theme Forest over here. If you haven't used this site before, you can bang it into Google. This has hundreds and hundreds of different templates for different types of apps that you might be building. In previous set of videos, we showed using one here to build like an LMS system as well. Today, I'm going to be taking one for this two-sided marketplace. If you're searching for particular themes or templates on here, you probably just want to type in keywords to do with the app that you're actually building. And if you're interested in a particular framework that supports that app, then you can type that in as well. So for me, I like using Bootstrap themes. Bootstrap is a CSS framework. And the reason I like to use themes which are built from this particular framework is because I understand how this framework works. And this makes it just easier for me to actually update the theme. If you're building multiple apps on the platform, it makes sense to try and stick to maybe like one particular framework. If not, you're going to be pulling in lots of differently built front ends, and it's going to be a bit more work to kind of figure out how those front ends are actually put together and how they're working. And although you can just copy it directly into the builder, when you get to start making edits to it and that kind of thing, it's going to help if you have some basic understanding of how the site's been put together. So for this one here, if I click this live preview button, you can see kind of how it works. They've got a homepage, which has got all of listing out different rental properties. And then there's a page here, which displays kind of a list of listings. And then they have a single listing page as well, where you can come and actually book your appointment at that particular listing. So this would be kind of on the customer side when they're coming to the app and trying to book a listing. And then there's also a dashboarding section, which would be more for the provider of the listing, where you can come and add like new listings here. So I've kind of had a click around this template, and I've figured out that it basically supports on the front end side, it basically supports most of the functionality that we built out on the back end. So it looks like a good candidate for what I'm going to use. When you purchase the template, then you're going to get some files downloaded, which will look something like this. These will be different HTML files that you've got. And then you also have some assets files, which will contain the CSS, so the styling for the app. So the HTML is the visual part, and the CSS will be the styling of the app here. So what you need to do to begin with is, if you step back into the builder over here, come to your main first screen that you want to actually import, you can go to this code section down here, and then we want to take the HTML from one of the HTML pages. So we'll start at the home page. The bit you want to copy is the bit inside of the body. So you'll see all of the pages are broken down into, there's like a head section up here, which finishes there. And then there's like a body section, so you'll find the word body. and that's going to finish when you see the word body again. So I guess somewhere down here. Yeah. Things like these. Yeah, so I can come here actually and just grab all of this inside here. I'm just going to copy that. I can leave out the actual body tags and just copy what's inside it. Paste that into here and then update. And that's going to bring in the HTML. A few things we're going to see. Some of the styles might not quite be there yet, and some of like the images and things like that might be missing. So the reason some of the styles might not be there when you first import it is the code for these styles lives in these style sheets here, in these CSS sheets here. How do you know that? The way you can work that out is once you've copied the stuff within the body section of your HTML page, you can come and look in the head section, and you're going to see a bunch of tags like this, which have the word style sheet attached to them. So you can see like a whole bunch here. Each one of these is referencing a file that contains style related code, basically, which is these files here. This stuff we haven't, you won't yet import straight away. As I showed you, you'll start off by just pulling in the HTML code down here. But to actually import styles code, there's going to be another step you need to take. So what you can do is you can look in your assets folder, which is going to have all of your different style sheets in. So every single one of these templates that you download is going to probably have a folder like this, which says assets in it. And you'll see different files, which are suffixed by the letters CSS. And you can take these files and basically import them as well into the platform. The way you're going to import those is under this public files section down here. I've already done this actually for these ones here. But you can come and click like new file here, select a file, and then upload it. So here I've uploaded the theme.min.css, which is this one here. And I've uploaded this fontawesome.min.css, which is this one here. So you can upload those into the public file section just by going to new file, select file. And then if you click into any of the ones that you've uploaded, you're going to see that you're given a link up here. If I take this link and just copy it and paste it, then it's going to load up everything that was in that file that I just uploaded. So this is the theme.min.css. You can see it's the same. And you can come here, and I may have already done this. Let me check. Yeah, let me just remove some of these so you can see kind of what this would look like from the start. Yeah, so when I first imported it, it would look something like this, completely wrong. But if I come here now and I come to my home page and I click on this drop-down arrow and do edit page settings, go to this import section, add import, I can now take any of these imports here. So I can take this theme.min.css and I can paste it in here. Where it says type, you want to leave that on CSS because that's the, I guess, extension to this file. And then you can just click save. When you click that, you should start to see your page updating to match the actual style. Can do edit page settings again. I can add the other ones as well in the same way. So I can come to the imports, do add import, and then I can come here and take, let's say, my Font Awesome one here as well. Paste that in and save. That's going to import that icon library, for example. So those are the first two steps there. Some of these libraries that you're importing, you probably want to import, you want to import them all in the way that I've shown you here. But just as a general point, you can import libraries as well without actually uploading them into this public file section. So for example, if I want to use some icons from, let's see, I think this material design icons one here, I believe there should be a way. I might come back to this in a minute just to import these. Let me see. I'm just going to Google again. Let's see. Should be able to find, let's see, some CDN link that we can use to actually import these as well. Yeah, something like this. If you wanted to import external style sheets without actually upload them into the platform, you can also do that by referencing these, what are called CDN links, which are basically something similar to this. They're just hosting some style sheets somewhere else. So I could do import here, for example, to import that one, and then start using the styles from there as well. Let's see. I think there may be another one that I wanted to use as well. It's going to find, or in fact, let me just do this. No. Okay, fine. We can leave that one for now. So the other things you're going to see when you import are there's going to be some images and stuff which might be missing. So here you can see you haven't got, in the original design, there were images here, and then there was also a big image in this top section here. And the reason for that is if you look inside your HTML files, you'll see that you have a tag here called img, which is your image tag. So you'll see a whole bunch of images in here. And this has got a source attribute, which is basically referencing where the image lives. And this is referencing some image that is stored kind of locally once you download the template. So these images as well, if you want to use them, you'd probably need to come and upload those into the public file section as well. Or if you want to use different images, then again, you would come and upload some different images into the public file section here. And then if I click on, let's see, if I scroll down here, find one of these images, or I click on one of these images here, for example, and go to the settings for that. You'll see here actually what we've imported. We've got this link here. That's the source for the image. But this is not referencing a kind of URL that's holding the image online. Instead, it's trying to reference this URL here, which is kind of holding the image locally once you download the template. So you could take these images and, again, upload them into your public file section, or if you want to replace them with something else, you can upload a different image and use it. Or alternatively, if you actually come to the platform itself, the one that we're looking at, let's see, probably here you can get the images as well just by, if you look at the top here, you've got the actual kind of link where this preview template is running at the moment. So probably you could take this and stick it at the front of the image, and I guess it would load as well. But probably easier to upload it. See, that's actually not loading at the moment. So let's just, for now, we can kind of ignore the images and then fill them in with ones that we're going to upload, because actually we're going to be reading ours from the database. But just a point there that, when you upload these, little images probably will be missing because of the fact that they're referencing something that's stored on your local machine rather than something that's hosted online. So this will be kind of our initial home screen here. We're going to have to replace this background image and that kind of thing. Then if we just add a second screen here, I'm going to go through the same process again. This will be our listing screen where we're going to allow someone to view like an individual listing. So I can just copy that. Again, go to the code section. I can go to my listing single page. I can have a look here. And again, we're going to have a head section, which has got all of your styles in, and then a body section down here, which has got the actual HTML code in. So I can come here and copy everything inside my body section down to about here. Copy that, paste it in here and do update. That's going to pull in my single listing page. Again, if I compare this to the single listing page here, let's see. Listing single. You're going to see it's basically the same, but again, just missing images and some icons that we're going to have to switch out and upload. Otherwise, you can see, this is where, for example, the user icon would be. Here we'd have the big picture showing like the listing itself at the top. But apart from that, basically looking okay. So it's going to be the individual listing page that we click into. And then finally, I think I want to add another page here, which is going to be my kind of dashboard related page where the people who are renting the properties can come and actually upload their listings in the first place. So I call this like listings dashboard, for example, and do save. And again, I'm going to come to the code section here. I'm going to open up my listings page here. I'm going to scroll down and look inside my body. And again, come and copy everything that's inside here. Paste that in here and updates. And that should bring in my kind of page where I'm going to actually be displaying. I'm going to allow people to actually upload listings in the first place. If I look under the dashboard here and then go here, you'll see that's essentially this screen here. Again, the only thing that's really missing are these image icons down here, which again, we're going to be, if you actually click on the image, you could come and replace the source for like a valid source. But in our case, we're going to be loading these images as well from the database where they're stored. So we're going to ignore that for now. So now I have 3 screens kind of in place, one for creating new listings. I've got a home screen where we're going to display like a list of listings. And then I'm going to allow people to kind of click into an individual listing and see the details for that individual listing for now. So first thing I want to do now that I've kind of got my basic layout, we're going to go through and clean up a bit and delete certain things that we might not need and switch some of the background images and that kind of thing. But before that, I want to start putting in some of the logic as well for my app, for the front end. So on our back end, we had different actions to begin with to manage the authentication for the app. So we had like sign up, login actions, and one action to load up the current logged in user. So I want to start integrating these into my app to begin with, so I can start to manage authentication within the app. So to do that, I'm going to start off by going to my front end action section here. And this is what we're going to use to then build out what James has called in the JavaScript part of it. So we've imported like the HTML, the CSS, and then we're going to be building out the JavaScript related part using these front end actions here. So the first action that I want to do is one that's going to load up the user that's currently accessing my app. So I'm going to create a action here that's essentially going to run the backend action we made before to load up the current user of the app, so the person that's currently viewing the page. So I'm going to call this one get current user. Add an event, and the event I want to add is just going to be the run endpoint one. And I'm just going to run the get current user endpoint. Oops. That's going to return me hopefully information about the current user, and that's going to be stored in this response as variable here. So this is going to store details that are returned from this get current user endpoint here. If I go and run that now from the backend and take a look, we'll see that this loads up this information here. So it loads up this particular email and some details about this user. So you can see that user in the database here. So that's just loading up this currently logged in user. So running this endpoint here is just going to run that backend action. It's going to get the data and put it into this get current user response variable here. If I go back to the section here, this allows me to define a trigger that's going to cause this action to run in the first place. For the get current user one, you pretty much always want to run that on app mounts. So this means we want to run this when the application is first loading. This way we'll always have information about the user that's currently accessing the system. After this is run, I want to add another event, which is just going to check if this first action runs successfully. So when I run this now, I get a bunch of data fields back down here. And I also get a code up here, which is 200. If this code is 200, it means this has run successfully. If it wasn't, then we would know that, we'd know this had not run successfully. So to give an example of that, let me just very quickly add one action we forgot on the back end, which should be a logout one. This one can actually log a user out of the system. Just going to add this quickly. Save and just rebuild this. So if we run this particular backend action now, this is just going to log out my existing current logged in user until I rerun the login one here. I just want to do this so we can test running this backend action here after we've logged out a given user. So let me just come here and run this. That's going to log me out. And then if I come back to my get current user one again and just run this, now we're going to get a non-200 response code here. So what I want to do in my front-end action, coming back to this, is I want to add a condition which checks that response code. So I'm going to do if, and then check the response code equals success. And in fact, so I want to check that the response code equals 200. So what I would do here is just come out of this and add a global variable here. So any variables that we add here are global and can be accessed anywhere. So I just want to add one here called 200, which is going to store the value 200. And that way in my get current user one here, I can just use a condition and say if the response code equals 200. So if response code equals 200, then now I know the user has logged in successfully. If I come back out of here again, I might add a second variable here, which can be a checkbox variable, which I can just call is logged in. And this is going to hold the value of true or false to tell me whether the user's logged in or not. If this is set to true, then I know the user's logged in. If it's set to false, I know the user's not logged in. So what I want to do is in my front end action here, I'm going to run this get current user endpoints, and I'm going to say, if I get a success message back, this means I know the user is logged in. So if I get a 200 success code back, I'm going to update this is logged in variable to true. So again, I could create another global variable here that I could just call true. This could be a checkbox variable, storing the value true. And then in my front end action here, I could just say set field and say set is logged in equal to true. And now this is going to run. It's going to try and get the current user. If I get anything other than a 200 message, then I know the user's not successfully logged in. So I can just not run this bit of logic here. But if I do get a 200, I know they are logged in. So I can update this is logged in value to true. What I also might want to do is create another global variable here, which could be of model type. And then I can pick my users table as the structure of the model. And I could call this one like current user. And then in this front end action here, I could add one more set field after this. And I could say set current user equal to user response. So when this runs now, it's going to run the get current user endpoint. It's going to make sure it's equal to 200. If it is, I can update logged in equal to true, and then I can write the response. So write all the data into this get current user, into this current user variable here. And this is going to run whenever the app first loads. So when the app first loads, I'm going to know if someone is logged in or not, and I'm going to know who that person is, which is going to be important information for the entire app. If I come back to my pages that I've added here now, the home page and the listing page are going to be probably accessible to every single person in the world. So anyone who wants to come and check out my app can come to my home page and my listing page and start clicking around. But the dashboard page, I probably want to reserve so that only someone who's logged into the app can actually come here. I want this to be a real user of my app who's going to come and actually create a new listing. So in other words, I want to lock this page down so that only people who are signed up to my app and actually logged in can access it. So the way I'm going to do that is if I come and click on this drop down and go to page settings here, I can add what we call a redirect rule down here. Which allows me to automatically redirect users to other pages based on certain conditions. So if I, for example, let's say create another variable here just called false, which is just going to hold the value false. Under my redirect rule now, I could say I'm going to redirect people to the home page when this is logged in variable is equal to false. So this is going to make sure that nobody can actually come to this page unless they're a real verified logged in user. So this is how I'm going to manage kind of authentication on the front end side of my app. There are other ways that we can show and hide specific components based on whether a user's logged in or not. But to begin with, I just want to manage kind of protecting certain pages based on whether a user's logged in or not. So now on my front end screen here, I want to come actually and start to update this top bar a bit here. Let's see. So to begin with, I want to give an option for someone to actually sign up and log into my app. So I'm going to change this design very slightly. add a modal box up here rather than this list your space box here. If I click on the modal box and just hide it, and then if I click on one of these buttons, for example, when I click on this button, you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen that there are certain classes attached to this button. So these classes here basically hold all of the styles that we imported at the beginning in our style sheets imports down here. What this means is I can take these classes and I can add them to this button here. I can just copy the same classes, and then it's going to copy the styling across. So I'm going to create a button here, which I'm going to call, let's say, sign up. Oops. And then I'm going to copy this modal again and put one next to it, which I'm going to call login, and I'm going to delete this original text link here. So I've got sign up and login. Both of these are now modals. So if I click on the button, then click on the containing modal box, I can show them and hide them like so. If I add, let's see, another class, this top one here, it's going to space the thing out. So I said at the start that this particular template was built using this Bootstrap framework, which you can Google and look at online here. You just search for Bootstrap 5 and you'll come up to like a document like this. This particular framework has certain classes like these BTN ones and MS2 and so on, which control the styling of the components. So if you're familiar already with the given framework, then it's very easy to actually start updating the templates. So it'd be worth, as I said at the start, when you're importing your template, maybe picking one with a framework, some styling framework attached to it, and then you can kind of reference the documentation for that styling framework. It's going to make it really easy to update. So for example, I know on this Bootstrap one that there are these MS classes which allow you to put margin at the start of a particular component. So I can use that here to space these things out very quickly. Alternatively, if you want to add styles via this styles panel down here, what you can do is override some of the styles that would be in the framework and or in the different style sheets that you've imported here. And the way that you would do that is by, let's say, adding another class on top of this one here. So this one could be like login button, for example. If you add that class, you probably want to uncheck these other ones here. And the reason for that is now any styles that you apply will only be attached to this selected class here. So I could update this, for example, to like, not color, sorry, I could update the, if I get rid of this thing here, I could update the margin on this here to something else like so. And this is now only going to affect stuff with this login button attached to it. If I was to do the same thing, but apply those margin changes, for example, to this BTN primary, then this would be probably a bad thing to do because, as you'll see, there are other buttons in your app with the same class, and you don't want those styles to apply to every single one of those buttons. You only want it to apply to this one here. So again, if you wanted to do that, add like a new class, uncheck the other two, and then start apply styles on the new class so that you don't accidentally add styles to existing classes which might be used elsewhere in the app. Alternatively, as I said, if you know how the framework works, it's probably going to be classes that do the kind of things that you want to do, like add margins and that kind of thing here. Anyway, now we have a sign up and login button here. If I just, let's say, pop this one open here, here I can come now and start to actually implement the logic for my sign up flow. So on the back end, we've already created a sign up action here, which creates a new user and logs them into the system. So what I want to do now is actually run this particular sign up action when the user clicks this button here. So again, to do that, I'm going to create a front end action. I'm just going to call sign up. I'm going to add an event to this, and the event that I want to use again will be the run endpoint. So that's going to let me run the sign up action here. For this sign up action, I need to pass it a email and password to sign my user up. So again, on the front end of the app, I want to create a global variable to store that username and password. So I'm going to create a app variable here. I would normally call this something like endpoint input, so like EPI maybe, or you might want to call it like input maybe, something like that. I like this. And then underscore, and then the name of the backend or front end action you're going to be running, which is going to be sign up. Then for the type, I'm going to use a custom model. And I have a model here called sign up, which contains all of the data for my sign up action. So what I can do now is in my sign up front end action here, I can come and reference that variable to actually sign my user up. So I could do sign up email and sign up password. This again is going to return a response code, which will be 200 if the thing runs successfully. So I can have sign up response code here, which is going to store that given response code. And then inside here, I'm going to add an event to check that response code. So it'll just be a condition event. And I can say if the response is equal to, and then 200 again. So if response code equals 200, this means it ran successfully. Then inside here, I can then do another event here. So the event that I want to do here is basically I want to rerun this get current user workflow here. So the reason for that is once I've signed up, in my sign up action, it's going to create a new user and then it's going to log me in. So if I rerun this get current user workflow, I should get a 200 response code back this time because this time the user is logged in. And if I get that 200 response code, then I can update my is logged in field to true. And I can also store the data on my new user in this current user variable here. So the way I can do that is just add if I do run action event here, this allows me to run one of the other actions. So I can run the get current user action like so. So then on my actual form here, let's say I can just rename this to sign up. I can label that as email and password. And then I can bind these input boxes to that EPI variable that I created. So this sign up email and this sign up password one here. And then finally, I can click on my submit button, go to this sliding bolt icon here, and I can say on click, I'm going to run the sign up front end action there. If I now close this box down, I can do the similar thing for my login. So if I pop my login box open here, I could create again another variable over here. This one could be like EPI login. Should be a custom model again. This will reference then the login model, which stores all of the data that I need for my login endpoint. I can again attach that login information to this form. So I'll do email and password again. And then I can create a front end action here, which is going to be a login action. Similar workflow here. I'm going to add an event, which is going to be a login endpoint to log someone in. I'm going to get a response from this and a response code. Response code, again, will be 200 if this runs successfully. And then I need to pass it the email and password, which I'm going to get from that login variable that I bound to the input box. So now I can do login password and say, oops, and spell that correctly. So now, again, I can check the response code from that endpoint. So I could say, if this response code is equal to success, so equal to 200, then I know that I've logged in successfully. And if I've logged in successfully, then again, I want to rerun that get current user action. So I'm going to do run action and then rerun get current user. And this way I can verify the user's accurately logged in, update that is logged in variable, and also update data on the current logged in user. So now let's rename this just to login to begin with. And I can come and restart these buttons in a bit as well. And let's make sure this one is attached to the login front-end action that we've made, and just double check that these are attached to the relevant variables. So now I can load up my current user, can log in, sign up, which will allow me to go kind of access these three back-end actions that we've been through here. The next thing I want to be able to do is load up all of my listings to display on the first page. So if I run this backend action here, this currently loads up listings from my listings table. So I want to be able to run this and load up my listings, and then someone's going to be able to click into an individual listing. So I want to, again, create another front-end action here. This one here I can call get listings. And I want to run this one when this homepage first loads. And in this one here, I want to run that get listings backend action. So I'm going to run the get listings endpoint. That's going to return me a response, which is going to contain my list of listings. And it's going to return me a code, which again, we want to be 200 to make sure this is run successfully. Again, after this, I want to add a condition to check that this ran successfully. So I'll do condition, I'll say if listings response code equals 200. I know this is run successfully. And then similar to the other ones, I'm going to add a set field event in here. And before I do that, I'm going to add a global variable here, which I can just call, let's say, EPR, so endpoint response. Again, how I like to name things, EPR endpoint response, get listings. And this is going to be a collection of listings. So I can set the kind to collection and then look at my listings section here. So now in my get listings front-end action, I can do a set field and do set the value of this get listings variable equal to the response from my endpoint. So the login and sign up we ran on button click, and the other one, the get current user, we ran when the app first loaded. This one I want to run when this page first loads. So to do that, I'm just going to click on this div block here, add front end action, component did mount, and pick the get listings one. So this will now run when the page first loads up. I'm just going to build this now quickly just to make sure that everything's working here. But we should now be able to log in, sign up, and load up our listings. And then I'm probably going to want to display these somewhere on the screen as well, actually. So let's see. Yep, that all built successfully. So I'm just going to for now. We might update this a bit next time. Let's just start off under this listing section here. If I select one of these div blocks, I probably want to have this div block here. I can go to the settings, do repeating with, search for that listings variable here. And now inside here, I can switch the text on these for some text for my listings. So I can give like the name, for example. It's just now going to display the name. I might want to put the price down here. And then I can actually delete these other two boxes here. So these boxes are now going to repeat based on the listings that I've loaded up from the back end. I know we're coming to the end, so I'm just going to build this one and just test this out very quickly. And then next time we can go through finishing styling this page and then what happens when you click into a individual listing. Now let me just see if I just refresh this now. Okay, yeah, so still missing our images and that kind of thing. We can see currently, if I scroll down a bit, I've got my one Airbnb property listing. I need to add the image in for that up here as well. And let's see if I come here and I kind of inspect my network requests here. I can see if I come and try and actually log in if anything happens here. Which it does, but I've forgotten what my details were for my user. Yeah, that'd be this one here. I'm guessing I did pass 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so that logs me in successfully. I can see down here, and then it's reloading my current logged in user. Only way I can really see that visually on the front end at the moment, I guess, is if I was to go to my listings dashboard now. Let's see. This is now going to let me load up this one here. Whereas I think if I come and run the logout endpoint quickly, let's see, that's going to log me out now. And if I try refreshing this now, let's see. Yeah, this is now going to boot me back to this homepage because we said that this listings dashboard one, you had to be logged in to access. So we can kind of test a bit the authentication already like this. Let's just run that again just to verify. So if I try now going to listings dashboard, now I'm okay. So I know sign up and login are kind of hooked up and I know that the listings are loading up. So then, yeah, next time we'll put in the images, finish styling the pages, and then we'll add something, I think, just to click through as like an individual listing from wherever this list of listings was that I had, like down here, and start going through the transaction process. Probably that's enough for now. If there's any outstanding questions or anything.
Yeah, let me go ahead and allow people to unmute themselves. So if anyone has any questions about the front end of the two-sided marketplace, please go ahead and unmute and see if anyone says anything. Nope, seems like we're good. Samuel?
Awesome.
Thank you so much. That was great.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you, Sonia, as well.
Yeah, of course. We'll go ahead and wrap up the recording and we'll be back next week. So looking forward to seeing you then.
Cheers. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.